So welcome back everyone to another incredible episode of Chat with Dan here for today on the show. What can I say? Well, I mean, this is already the perfect Tuesday ever because we have on the show the incredible, the amazing, the badass, the superstar, the legendary, the one and only, the incredible even, Rheagan. Rheagan, how are you today?
Better after that introduction. Wow, I'm wonderful. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. What better way to have an incredible, super badass day to be chatting with such as legendary as and badass as you know what I mean?
Man. Yes, it is great. I'm so happy to be here with you with another fellow incredible badass legend.
There you
Dan,
go.
come
Thank
on.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow. It helps a lot. But also in the description below, you're going to find all of Rheagan's social media. Let's follow her. Let's find out why she's super badass. We're on a mission right now. And without further more, let's jump in. So, I want to start this whole conversation by throwing out the first question, which is, what was the moment, like that exact moment, when you knew this was more than a passion, that acting become more like your purpose, let's say?
Well, it's hard to pinpoint it to an exact moment, but in my one woman show, Stage Mama, from child star to leading lady, I do talk about the time in my life when I realized that my purpose, as you so eloquently say, that acting was my purpose. Because I started acting professionally. So when I was around 4 years old, I started very early. And it all did start with just my parents being obsessed with the brand new camcorder that they just bought right before I was born in the 80s, the big old honking one with the big old light that attaches to it. And my literal first moment that I ever opened my eyes in this world was when my dad said, "Look at the camera." And he was holding the camera over me in the hospital room. So I was sort of born with the camera, through the camera lens, through the eye of the camera lens. And I loved it just as much as it loved me. And my mom, recognized it very early that I really excelled in front of the camera. I loved putting on little one woman, one person shows in the living room. And after she got me in acting classes and got me going professionally there in Dallas, everything just spiraled into a full-time career, coming to LA, staying planted in LA, pilot season, the whole thing. And I always, being an actor was something that has always been a part of who I am. But when I really got to be the age, in my early teenage years, I really started to, I knew it was a craft. I knew it was a skill. I knew it was something that I loved to do always. But when I was probably around 14 or 15, when I got really into the indie art house films, and that's when I really started to go, oh, this is that storytelling. It's more than just something that I'm good at, that's fun, that I love to do. And you can maybe, go to lots of really cool events and walk red carpets and all that kind of stuff. And that was always really cool to me, but I really decided, and it really hit me, that I was a storyteller. And that was really what I wanted to do. And that the craft of acting was something that was more than that. It was me. It was part of me. It wasn't just something that I did. And that's when I really, 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 really sat in the truth of the fact that I was an artist. So yeah, it was pretty early on for me, but also, relatively speaking, it was a little bit later, after I had really been, I always really understood the depth of what I did, but it really hit me, and I really made that choice that, yes, this is who I am. Yeah, it was around, 14 or so. To answer that question in a
Oh, I love
very
it.
long,
I
roundabout
mean, we're
way.
just we're just starting out, and I'm already speechless. Now, two things here. The first one, tell me a little bit about your one woman show.
So it's called Stage Mama, from child star to leading lady. And I'm playing a lot with those words, Stage Mama. It's about my stage mom and my relationship with her. I'm taking that sort of, when everyone hears the word stage mom, there's a certain stereotype. Everyone can come up with a character in your head of what a stage mom is, my show is a lot about how multiple things can be true at once. And it does sort of push back on those stereotypes of the pushy mom who is living vicariously through her child. There's a little bit of truth in that, but then that also doesn't take away from the truth that there was a lot of love and a lot of devotion and a lot of belief in what she saw in me. It wasn't just that she had this dream and she had a cute kid, so she pushed. It was a mutual endeavor, even though it did start before I really even knew what it was that we were really doing. The show itself all sort of started from, so my mom passed away last May of 2024, and it was obviously the most life-changing, most impactful thing that has ever happened to me. And as I was preparing, I was writing her obituary and planning her funeral with my sister and my dad. And we unearthed these 8mm tapes of my life, of our life, the ones that started from that day in the hospital when I opened my eyes when my dad said, "Look at the camera." And my mom's dream, she always had a dream of digitizing these tapes. There's over 180 hours of these tapes, and she always wanted someone to digitize them, but she never trusted anyone enough to send them away. And she never, you'd have to have somebody doing it in real time in your space, or you'd have to send it somewhere else. So that never was done. But my husband, who is in IT, he was just like, we can do this ourselves. And he went to Best Buy and got a little adapter, because we were sitting there watching the tapes all as a family and just laughing and crying and, sniveling all over each other and just having the best time, though. And he said, if we're going to watch them like this, we might as well be digitizing them. So we organized the tapes and we started digitizing them ourselves. And I stayed in Texas with my family there doing this for a couple of months. And then I thought, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was in the darkest time of my life, and I was watching these tapes, so just feeling this strong pull that I needed to do something with them creatively. I knew I needed to do something creative. I knew I needed to pour myself into my creativity. I didn't know what I was going to do, though. I was organizing them and going through them, and I was editing a documentary. That's what I originally thought I was doing. And one day during a very weepy session with my incredible therapist, they were like, well, this was in January of this year, and this is just a suggestion, but the Hollywood Fringe Festival is coming around in about 6 months. Maybe would you like to do a solo show? And it was like, oh, it was just like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my God, yeah. And then my wheels just started turning, and I was like, I can use the videos in the show, and I can still use what I'm doing here, but like use it in my show. And I just immediately was like, yes. And I had seen a show by my friend Tatum Langton, whose show was called Redeem Her: How I Screwed Up My Perfect Mormon Life. And I saw it at the Hollywood Fringe Festival a few years ago. And I just thought, I'm going to reach out to Tatum and I'm going to see. She was the first person that popped into my head. And I reached out to her and she was like, yes, let's go get coffee. So we went to go get coffee like that, like within an hour of reaching out to her. And then we sat and talked for like 3 hours. She gave me everything, all the information that she had about her solo show and how she got it started. And I reached out to Jessica Lynn Johnson, my director, and her director immediately after that, that same day. I met with Jessica the next day over Zoom. And then she was like, hey, I have a show that's actually tonight at the Zephyr Theater. You should come and see it. I went to go see a show she directed called There's Something Seriously Wrong with Cyrus. And it was like everything just was screaming at me that this was exactly what I needed to do. And I started writing the show in January. Basically, I started bullet pointing my whole life and just going, this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened throughout my entire life. And then I went in and monologued all of those bullet points. And then and that put me at about a 212-page monologue that I had in like March of 2025. And then I went through that and started theatricalizing those monologues and turning them into scenes. And the whole time, meeting with Jessica, and she was guiding me through the development of the script and everything. And then, and also all the while going through all of my home videos and all of my tapes and all of my past work. I got it down to from originally a 212-page monologue to around a 30-ish page script, which comes out to about a 60-minute long solo show. And then I premiered it at the Hollywood Fringe Festival this past June, and it was quite honestly the most profound experience of my life. This show has sort of been the biggest, grandest thing I have ever taken on. And now I'm taking it. Just so happened that the universe granted me this incredible gift of being able to take my show from the Hollywood Fringe Festival to the Fort Worth Fringe Festival, where I am originally from, and almost immediately back to back. So my family, my dad, my sister, and my nephew came out to see my show in June. And now I get to go take the show to the rest of my family and friends back in Texas for 3 performances in September. And then it's coming back again here to the Binge Fringe Festival at the Santa Monica Playhouse in October. And then again, I'm doing the Soaring Solo Star series in November. So I have filled the rest of my year up with stage mama, and I could not be happier doing anything else.
I'm speechless again. I love it. It's
Thank you.
it's super inspirational what you do because you're actually transform something amazing from grief. We all know that
Yes.
yeah, it's challenging losing someone you love, especially someone so close as a parent, of course. But the fact that you were able to transform that into something beautiful to it, into something, it's not gonna lie, it's really inspirational because you actually make that happen. I think yeah, you're kind of the living truth here that actually you can transform something positive to it, to put it out there and for people to feel, people to either to enjoy it or to feel some sense of relation to it, to feel relatable to it. I mean, that's incredible. That
Yes.
is really cool. And I'm sure that your mom is super proud of watching you and see how and see what an amazing thing you transform out of this. That's pretty cool. It takes guts and you definitely are making it happen. So respect for that.
Thank you so much, Dan. That really means a lot to me to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. It's
That's why
challenging, right? And
it
and like
it, it is.
uh
That's why we do it though.
yeah, like to putting yourself out there in a very vulnerable position and to actually express something from yourself to the audience to watch and to see it. I would assume that it tends to be challenging and scary, but that is amazing. So
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it is a huge challenge, but I think that, our challenges, the challenges that we face, it's like that's sort of how that's who we are is how we face challenges and how we handle them and how we, overcome and work through challenges. And it's okay to not be okay. Like I wasn't okay. I'm still the grief is on. It'll be everlasting. It never stops. It never ends. But to be able to channel it into this show has been not only beneficial to me, but it has resonated with a lot of people. And that's why I'm doing it. From a really early age, I was 7 years old when I booked one of the reenactments on the show, America's Most Wanted. And it was a show where they're actually tracking down people who are on most wanted FBI most wanted lists, and they're actual criminals out there that this show was helping to catch. In my episode that I did, this was like the second thing I ever booked in my career. The guy that my episode was about, they actually ended up catching him like 3 months later after the episode aired. And he was a really bad guy, did a lot of really bad stuff. And I was really young, but I remember clocking that because of what I did, because of acting, it wasn't just entertainment. It was actually changing. What I did had an effect on people in real life. And it wasn't just that I was on TV to entertain. I was on TV to actually cause change. And that clicked with me, even at a very young age. And I thought that was so cool to be a part of something that was more than just entertainment. And that definitely stayed with me. And I think that thread was still there throughout everything that I did, throughout everything that I wanted out of my career, even at a really young age. I never wanted to, there's that stereotype of the actress, just like the stage mom. There's the actress that is, this like vapid, shallow, whatever it is that people say. But, there's so much more to every human being than just that. But I wanted to really dive into what it means to not only entertain, but what it is that we do as artists, and how that creates the ripple effect and how that creates change in society, in the world, for people. And part of what I'm doing with, my show, and I hope that people leave with whatever it is that they leave with, I'm happy with it. But I hope feel seen in some way. And I hope that it can just help someone feel seen or heard, or through their own grief or their own family dynamics or whatever it may be. So yeah, it's challenging, but it's also at the same time it's doing something for me, but I know that it is doing something for others that get to be there and witness it and experience it. So
That is what it's all about. Cool.
yeah.
I have come to terms to kind of accept grief. You know
Me
what I mean?
too.
To actually take it. And I watched this reel the other day
Mm-hmm.
in which Andrew Garfield was with, I think it was with Elmo,
Mm.
right, from Sesame Street.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh
then he was
yes,
saying, that the fact that
I love it.
about the whole grief to it, and then later on, throughout the whole day, I was just thinking of it, and I was like, yeah, I mean, of course it's sad, but at the same time, what I try to do is to make it feel like my heart is celebrating the fact that I got the
Yes.
chance to spend time with someone who really
Yes.
cared about me, who, you start to remember the good parts, the fun moments, like all of that, and I think that is
Yes.
when your heart is kind of celebrating that
Yes, it
feeling
is a
to it, right?
celebration.
Of course, it's
Mm-hmm.
challenging
Mm-hmm.
and it's easier said than done, but at the end of the day, I do think that
Absolutely.
we kind of owe it to those who have passed away, who care about us, and who loved us, for us to continue on moving, you know what I mean? For us to continue working and to moving on to the next big thing. I mean, we owe it to them basically. And I think the best way to pay that debt is to try to as well to inspire someone or to help someone who might, because you never know. That is like the whole beauty thing. I mean, you never know who you might be inspiring for something you did, something you said in the past, or something you're doing in the present, things like that. You know what I mean? So tell me, what is something about the craft of acting that people outside the industry deeply misunderstood or overlook?
For me, I think that one of the things that has always maybe bothered me about what people think about actors is that we're like really good liars, or that it's like all about lying, or that it's all about like, I mean, there's an element of pretend. I mean, yeah, it's like there's an element of pretend essentially in some way, but in a lot of ways. But for me, people that don't know anything about the craft of acting miss that it is about honesty, and it is about truth, and it is about getting to the truth of the moment, of the situation, of the story, of the person, of the human, of the character. To me, I it was always just has really just bothered me that people have thought, since I was really little, I've always heard people say, oh well, Reagan, she's, well, you don't know whether she's telling the truth or not because she's an actor. She's, and it's always bothered me because it's like, no, like that's the farthest thing from who I am, or what we do is that, yeah, like obviously you're playing a different person, you're playing a different character, you're in a situation that is not, your own, but it's not just as simple as just you're really good at lying, and everyone has their own, of course, to say, I know there's a million ways to get to a good a performance. Everyone has their own ways of doing it, and some actors do look at it as totally buying into a truth, but that's the thing, is that it's about buying into a truth, and then you can go back and forth, well, then that's what lying is essentially. But always something that has bothered me has always been just that note that we're really good liars, but that's what we do, is we just lie for a living, and you never know if we're deceiving you or not. Because it is, in my experience, my truth is that most of the actors I know and most of the actors I've known throughout my life have been some of the most honest, truth telling people I've ever known. So
Tell me, how do you stay grounded in an industry that constantly asks you to reinvent or even sell yourself?
well, you have to, for me, I stay very in touch with my life outside of the business, the industry. I have a very supportive family. My husband, my daughter, I'm a mom, so I do a lot of momming. I have a lot of wonderful friends. I have, just a really good circle of people, a community. I have, neighbors, and, I keep myself involved in other aspects of my life in ways that I can bring into my work. When you are an actor, and it's sort of like, when it all depends on, again, what you want out of it and what your goals are and what your ideas of success are and all of that. When you decide that this is what you want to do for a living, and that your art and what you do is your life, there is that element of like selling yourself. It turns into a business. It is a business. And when I was little, I talk about this a lot in my show. When I was a kid, that was something that was a really tough balance. It's hard for even an adult to balance. But as a kid, I hated the idea that I was essentially a product for sale. And you are essentially competing, against these other products, and that was one way of looking at it that I did not like. There is a sort of a reality to that if you look at it in that way, but then it's like, that doesn't have to be your reality if you don't choose it to be. I don't know how to explain it, but it's for me, I've had a really long time in my life to reflect on those sorts of things. I think that there is sort of a part of it that if you are going to look at it as a business, it is a business. You are essentially selling your brand, your, it's so icky to even like say those things. But you have to sort of embrace it in a way. And while also, for me, knowing that I hate to say that I feel icky saying it, because I do, I want to embrace the idea that I am very fortunate to be able to devote my time to a craft, to something that I do see myself making money. I have made money as an actor before. It's a lot harder, these days, I think, for anyone to make money doing anything. But it is like I do know that it is something that is it is worth people's money. God, it's such a, it's so weird to talk about. And it is something that you have to embrace. And it is something that you have to, however you work that in your own mind, it's part of it. But I also am very fortunate to have a life that I am able to have that fulfills me in so many other ways, like, as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter myself, as a friend and neighbor and community member. I stay involved in a lot of my friends' lives and their projects and supporting other people and doing what they do. And Yeah, I guess that's that's a roundabout way of answering that.
Have you ever turned down a role because it didn't align with who you are or who you're becoming?
I've turned down auditions for things that didn't align with, yeah, like who I how I want to portray, how I want to be portrayed. Mostly that comes down to sexualization stuff that I just, that sort of stuff that I don't jive with. And it's always a case by case sort of scenario thing, and I'm present myself as sort of, always open to everything. Once it's presented to me, whatever the project is, I decide based on that if it's something that I would lend myself to audition for. I've gotten to the point where I am more secure in who I am. So I do feel like I can confidently say no to things more now. When I was a kid, there were a lot of things. There was, and I touch on this a little bit in my show. Originally, in my original piece, I talked a lot about the movie 13 and how that was with Evan Rachel Wood, and it was the directorial debut from Catherine Hardwicke. And I was sent the script, and we were all, we were actually 13 at the time. We were all kids, and everybody was buzzing about it. It was, everyone was auditioning for it. Everyone was reading the script, and my mom read it. I read it. I stopped at certain places where I just, I was a kid, and some of the stuff that was in that script, I mean, it was all based on a true story, based on actually Nikki Reed's life. But, we had to say, I don't think this is something that I didn't feel comfortable with, but then, turned out to be what it is. And Evan Rachel Wood's career, and all of their careers went on to do fantastic things after that film, and the film ended up being wonderful, but it is a tough watch. It's a hard watch. But at the time, it wasn't right for me. There's been a lot of stuff, like there was the hostess in the film Waiting with Ryan Reynolds. The role ended up going to Vanessa Lenges. We were both under the age of, pretty sure we were 18 or under 18 still, but there was some stuff in there that was just kind of questionable for someone. I could talk all day on stuff that, as a kid, when you're growing up, and like that whole transition between like a young adult child actor, that time when you're transitioning into an adult, and the things that you are asked to do, things that as a young woman that it's like, when I was a kid, it was like a lot of breakdowns, a lot of like character descriptions or describing characters I was auditioning for as like a young Paris Hilton type and stuff like that. And like at the time, she was only known for a sex tape, and you're like 14 years old. Just so, yeah. Throughout my whole life, there have been a lot of things that I have had to turn down or say no to that did not align with my morals and values and ethics and all of those things. But yeah, I try to keep it, I try to keep myself open to everything. One of the things that, people can take this or leave this for whatever it is, but for a period of time I was living in Texas. After I turned 21, I went back to Texas and was living there for a little while, and I sort of jumped back into the acting pool there. And there are a lot of faith based projects, mostly Christian projects, that are done back there, which, no, I mean, it's a huge market, and no shade on anyone who enjoys their, I mean, The Chosen is quite a successful, and that's shot right there in Texas, and I have many friends on that show and a part of that show, and I'm so happy for them and all their success. But it's not exactly where I have decided to put myself in that world. When I was there, I dabbled. I did a little, would dabble in that world because there's so much of it there. But I was still very choosy about which ones I devoted my time to. But I tend to shy away from that these days.
Mm. Amen, sister.
Yes, 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 yes. Amen. Amen. For me, like I said, my show is a lot about how multiple things can be true at once. And like you said, it's something that's so noble and so fun. And so it's something that I think children should absolutely be able to do with, total safety. And it's an understatement to say it is a shame that there hasn't been more done to protect children and their parents. It's like most of the parents, I would say, are doing this in with a good heart and good intentions and faith that other adults are in good faith and that they would never want to hurt. It's like when you look someone in their eyes and they look right at you and you're standing there with someone and they're telling you, I see the talent that you see in your child as well. I see it and I have the power to do something with it. It's so hard for that parent to see through that, to see through to anything evil or sinister behind that. You want to believe the best. And that's why it is so important. Just like you don't want to victim blame for anyone when they have been attacked or abused. These parents have essentially also been preyed upon. There are a lot of people that see a lot of opportunity in driving a wedge between a parent and their child, because then that adult who has the ulterior motive can then take the child essentially away from the parent and instill whatever beliefs, ideals, essentially grooming that child to believe whatever they want to believe and get that annoying parent who might be a little smarter and a little wiser and a little more keen on their motives. That happens. That exists. Like it does. But at the same time, there are plenty of situations where that isn't the case and that isn't the story. But I think that by talking about it, by shedding light on it, there are a lot of people that have protected those people. There are a lot of people that may not be bad people, but they have protected bad people and they have not exactly gone out of their way to protect the children from those bad people. And, I think that you can't make movies and TV without kids. I mean, you can't. You're not going to get away with just telling stories that don't involve children, and I think that children should be able to not just have to stick to doing their own school plays and local theater. Those are wonderful things to do. And I think that if you are a kid who absolutely just you're performer in your into your bones, like that's how it was for me. It was like you're just born that way and there's nothing else you can do. I encourage all of them and their parents to put as much time and devotion into learning the craft of acting before you ever go jumping into a business and making it, getting yourself into that world of the machine of the industry, because it is such an undertaking. Anyone that does get involved in it should do their best to do as much research and get as much advice from knowledgeable, reputable people who have been there. Read all the books, get as much knowledge as you can before you jump into the pool, because it is tough. It's hard. I wouldn't advise anyone doing it unless they are 100% certain in that moment that they have done everything. It's like, don't put the cart before the horses. Put all of your effort into all the classes and training, classically training your child, and just have fun, let them have fun learning the craft before it's treated like a business, because that's what you need to know first is the craft. And, all the other things can fall into place after that. But, I think that doing that part of it is important before you go just jumping into it. And like I said, it's like as a parent, my daughter plays volleyball and she's an athlete. And so it's like, when you've got a coach who watches your kid play and then goes, your kid they've got something special. They are, it lights something up in you. You're like, oh, you see it too. Oh, and you feel a connection with that person. And there's a trust that you want to feel when that person says that to you. So, I encourage any parent out there to, you want to listen to those people. Those people will guide you, but just know that you want to make sure that you're not just listening to any and every person, because just like there are, people out there who can guide you and connect you and put you on the right path and keep you on the right path, there are also those shisty people who do have ulterior motives, who will steer you down the wrong path. We got to keep talking about those people and calling those people out, because the more those people know that they'll get called out, hopefully, the less they will gravitate toward trying to prey on people in this industry that way.
I always encourage people to speak the truth to it. Don't hide, don't be afraid to
Yes.
it. Just speak the truth because it's true. I mean, if you want to, don't say the truth. Sometimes can later on might be causing more harm. And I understand that sometimes you might be afraid that they
Right.
can cancel your career because it has happened
Yes.
before. We have seen it,
Yes.
and not only in acting, like in general, right? That when someone
Right.
speaks the truth, they get canceled somehow. I mean, it's scary for
Yep.
sure because the fact that they're taking away their chance to provide a living to it, it's definitely scary. But
Yes.
there has to be a way somewhere in which you can actually speak your mind, and
Yeah.
if there's
That
actually an injustice there, to be able to say it so we can continue changing and upgrading. I think that is all about, right? The
exactly.
fact that we can continue moving forward and be better to it, and let go of those old practices or things that are not good at all. So
Yeah. Hope is what keeps us moving forward, because, yeah, it's a really bad time right now. It's a really challenging time. But that is, and I know this can sound cliche too, but these are the times when art prevails and when we need art the most. And, I think in a position of an artist, an actor, what we do is, I think there's one of my favorite quotes. It's by Bertolt Brecht, and I think it's something like, art is not a mirror held up to reality, but a hammer with which to shape it. And I do believe that, in that I think that, we are not here just to reflect back, but we are here to show what is possible. And we are here to give a visual connection to people. When you're watching a movie, or when you're in the theater experiencing storytelling in that form, especially, I mean, I think, in my opinion, there are two things in this world worth dying for, and that's independent film and live theater. And I think that, those two things, I think, are, for people that sort of want to dismiss the arts as something important, and then yet, at funerals we read poetry and play music, and, it's like, these are the things that people hold the closest to their hearts. Are, what is your favorite song? What is your favorite poem? What is your favorite film? What is your, those are the things that connect us. And I think that right now it is the most important thing to tell stories, to uplift, and to bring hope to this world that we are in right now, and to just connect with each other on human levels. If it's like, even if it's to commiserate with each other and just say, you're depressed, yeah, me too. I think that is, the most important thing we can do as human beings right now, especially.
couldn't agree more. The fact that we can rely on amazing people like you. You know what I mean?
Ditto.
What else can I say?
Ditto.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I love it. And before, jumping to our next question, tell me, how was your whole experience when you were on Malcolm? I did my research and I was like, okay, I need to ask her. I
Oh,
need to ask her because I'm a huge fan. And I know those who are listening to this later or watching it are fan as well. I mean, most of my friends,
yeah.
all of them have watched Malcolm, my coworker. I mean, it's one of those shows that
Yeah.
everybody watch. So how was your experience
Yeah.
to it?
Yeah. Oh, Malcolm is such I'm wearing the shirt right now,
Yeah,
my Malcolm shirt.
yeah.
Yeah. I hold Malcolm so near and dear to my heart. That experience was that set. Those people they were just some of the greatest. I'm so excited for the reboot coming up. I know it'll be, it's not going to be a whole lot, but it's going to be great. I played two different characters on the show, which was such a cool experience, because I did that on Walker, Texas Ranger too, when I was really little. And my mom made sure to tell me what a big deal it was to be brought back as another character on a show, because they don't do that all the time. That's not something they do. And what it really means is that that show just really enjoyed working with you. Those people really liked you a lot, enough to bring you back as a whole separate character. So it did. It meant a lot to me that they brought me back as Raduca, who I married Reese, and then I got deported, and yeah, it was a whole very hilarious storyline. But yeah, they really it was my first Jackie. The first role that I played on that show was my first big comedic role that I ever booked, and it felt like a breakthrough for me to get that show. Living in the world that I lived in at that time, Frankie Muniz was also a good friend of mine, just in the acting world. He lived at the same apartment complex I did for a short period of time, and because he was moving to LA from New Jersey, so we were friends for a long time before I was on the show. And it wasn't one of those things where it was like, because I was his friend, I got on the show. I mean, everyone and anyone and everyone that was a child actor was auditioning for that show all the time, because there were so many kids on the show all the time. So it was like I had auditioned for the show a few times before I actually booked that episode that I got. And then I ended up being the episode that I did was called Reese Drives. And we're in this driver's ed car, in a slow speed chase from the cops, because, Reese is like afraid to go over 20 miles an hour on the freeway in the driver's ed car that he just kidnapped me in. And it was such a wonderful time. I cannot express how incredible everyone on that show was. Bryan Cranston was such a class act to work with. When I was on the show later as Raduca, it was 4 years after my first role, and working with Cloris Leachman was just absolutely, it's the stuff dreams are made of. She was such a character in real life. I mean, the person of Cloris is just, there'll never be anyone like her, and there's never been anyone like her before her. She was truly one of a kind, and we connected a lot, because when I first got on the show, we were in the hair and makeup trailer talking about our accent, because everything on the show is so vague. The characters, the show, the family doesn't have a last name. You don't really know where they live. It was just one of those like really cool worlds where everything was, you could just kind of make it your own. And so I had my own idea of like where we were from in Eastern Europe. And so she and I kind of made sure we connected our stories before we, because I was Raduca, who was brought over from the homeland, and she brings me over and has the boys go through these trials of manhood to see who gets to marry Raduca. And it was just such a silly, fun experience. And I hold that time, because that show did reach such a huge point of being the American. I mean, it was like the antithesis of the American family at the time. It was like, this is, everyone could relate to it in some way, even though the characters were so over the top and so exaggerated. It was just such a relatable show. And I hold that time of my life, both of those shows, very, very close to my heart. It's the fan base is so wonderful. It actually has a huge fan base in Mexico, and it really, it's still to this day, like everyone is just really obsessed with Malcolm in the Middle. So I get a lot of messages from people in Mexico, and I just think that's really cool. I don't know why. I'm like, I'd love to know really what the like, I mean, I guess it's just a really relatable show in general. But yeah, it's truly one of the best times of my whole career is working
Yeah.
on that show.
Yeah. Did you know that they still put it on TV even to this day on free TV here in Mexico? They still put it every yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
every day
that
at
is
7 p.m. in one of the channels, like the
so.
national channels. Yeah.
So that must be, so yeah, it's still on TV there, I guess then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it's one of the yeah, it's that, and it's Malcolm in the Middle and Drake and Josh, the ones that even
oh,
till this
well,
day still
yeah.
airs. what I was telling you, that people from my office, all of them has watched it. People from my friends, everyone has watched it every now and then. In my
Yeah.
office, we will throw like random jokes regarding, Malcolm, for example, things like that. Everybody knows that show, so
That
it's
is
it's pretty
just,
cool.
that is so cool. That is so, so cool. Cause I've noticed a lot of like on Instagram, a lot of my followers are like a good chunk of my followers are there in Mexico and they message me like Raduca, Raduca, Raduca. Like I'm just like, oh my God, it's so cool. Like I just, I started to notice that. And I was like, wow, Malcolm is really big in Mexico.
Yeah, and it's
So
great the fact
amazing.
that you were able to participate in one of the most badass TV shows. And I'm super sure that we're going to be still talking about Malcolm in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's
I
one of those
agree.
shows that they're going to stick forever,
Yeah, like I Love
and
Lucy, yeah, it's like a iconic
mhm,
television show. I think that goes down in history for sure, and I'm very very proud of that.
totally.
I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's pretty cool. And as I was telling you, as I was doing like my little research, I was like, hold my beer. Wait a second. So then I need to watch this, and then when I watched it, I was like, no kidding, that's pretty cool. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I've for a while I've been asked to do an AMA on Reddit. I made myself known on Reddit on the Malcolm in the Middle subreddit. And then everyone's always like, "Oh, do an AMA, do an AMA." Every time I go in there and like I'll just, comment on something that people will say, but and then I realized that a lot of them are fans from Mexico. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a huge honor to be a part of something like that. And at the time when you're working on it, it's like, I know people always say, like, oh, you don't know at the time that you're working on something. So, but I think that everybody did know that what they were doing there was something really special because just the feeling, just the sort of like family that it was. And every set is kind of like a family. You do the most, good set do kind of turn into like family. But there was something really, really special about Malcolm in the Middle. And when I did my audition for two, because I did audition for Jackie for the second role that I played, and it was actually I went straight to producers. Like I went straight to a producer session and did it for the producers and everything. And there were other girls there to audition, and but I actually got chased down in the parking lot by the casting director. The only time in my career that this has ever happened, where they told me in person that they were actually going to offer me the role. And that was really, really cool. My mom was waiting in the car, and we were on the CBS Radford lot here in LA, and where they shot Malcolm and everything. And I just finished my audition. I knew I slayed. I knew I killed it. I had the whole room of producers just laughing. And I mean, it's like when there's an uproarious laughter happening multiple times in the room, you've done your job. And yeah, I had barely had time to get in the elevator, get down to the bottom floor, start walking across the lot. And then she was like, Rheagan, wait, running behind me. And I turned around. She's like, and she caught up to me. She's like, I wanted to tell you that we're going to be calling with an offer. This role is yours. And I was just like, yeah, it's the only time that's ever happened. And that was just what I ran back to the car telling my mom, and we were just like, yeah, it was one of the coolest things. So that's a whole memory in itself.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to be part. And and it's great the fact that you were able in this, yeah, that you are part of this huge show that, as I was saying, that in 40, 50, 60 years, people are gonna be, still talking about it. People are still gonna, I do think that it's one of those shows that, for example, that films like Back to the Future, that even till this day, people still is rediscovering, because it's
Yep.
amazing if we put it in
Yep.
shows as well, like The Office, for example.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
kind of it's
Yes.
those shows that when you see it, there's something cool in it. There's something special to it, even if it is
Yeah.
super super funny, or
Right.
things like that. Has something special to it, and I think that's
Yeah.
amazing because it's like part of your life, like your legacy is there as well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's a huge honor.
With that, I can say that you are super incredibly badass at this point. You just raise the bar way too high at this point. You know?
Dan,
And
you
tell me,
flatter me.
if one day your work helped someone feel seen or gave them the courage to dream again, would that be enough?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think that that's literally the only reason I do what I do is so that somebody else out there who's watching what I do feels seen and feels like, they're not alone in this world in whatever way that that may be, or it speaks to them in some way that allows them to feel represented or, I think that's literally why I do what I do. So I think, when I was young, it was like part of the push and pull between my mom and I was always like she really wanted me to be set on a show like one of the Disney shows, like, Hilary Duff and Lindsay Lohan. And, she really wanted me to be like, have this trajectory of like, a series or to get, boosted into stardom at a young age because she really wanted me to be set for life. That was really what she wanted. But she had this idea of me being like Disney princess or, whatever it was. And I always wanted more than that. And I think that what I have always wanted, like I've said, is to create some sort of change. And that starts with having just one person feel seen or heard because of your work. And that's how you create change. I mean, that's all we have, our ideas and our voices. And our voices are what create connection, create community. And I think that it has to be enough because there's really, I mean, outside of that, nothing else matters.
Just gonna drop the mic, basically. You're killing it here. So pretty cool. I'll take it.
I'll
I'll
take
take this for
that. I'll
sure.
take
And
that.
to switch to our next activity here, speed round questions, yes, no, or pass. Super simple. Gonna ask you 10 questions in which you can say yes, no, or pass. Who knows?
Okay. Okay.
Ready?
Okay. This is the hardest part for me. Okay.
All right. So here we go. Do you ever stay in character after the director yells cut?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever cried in a scene and it wasn't scripted?
Yes.
Do you believe in method acting?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yes.
Um, ha-
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Have you ever regretted saying yes to a role?
Yes.
Do you think awards still matter?
Oh.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Is vulnerability your greatest weapon as an actor?
Yes.
Do you memorize lines quickly?
Yes.
Have you ever rewritten a line in your head because it didn't feel real?
Yes.
Do you think fame ruins craft?
No.
And would you take a break from acting if your soul asked for it?
Yes.
There you go. Pretty cool. All right.
Woo! Oh.
And tell
Whew.
me, in general, like what motivates you? We all have those days that basically we just want to quit. It's inevitable, happens to all of us, regardless of what we do. So how you stay positive or focus on a day that things are not doing so well, let's say.
Well, being a mom, my daughter definitely keeps me going. Being a mom and a wife and having a family, knowing that people depend on me, that definitely is a huge motivator. When you know that someone is looking up to you, that's part of what my show is about too. Is sounds cliche, but it's such a huge truth. Is just breaking cycles, breaking inherited cycles. And for me, part of that is leading by trying to lead by example. No one's perfect, and I definitely don't always hit the mark, but trying to and putting effort into trying to be a good example, that definitely keeps me motivated. Being the person that I wished I had when I was young, that definitely keeps me motivated because I have someone who is looking to me, whether or not they think they're looking up to you or not. They are. My show talks about a lot about like how my daughter came to be, which I don't want to give any spoilers or anything to anyone who doesn't know, but there's a lot of like, truly wanting to. My mom used to threateningly say, I hope you have one just like you. And I'd be like, yeah, well, I hope I do too. That would be a privilege and an honor, Mom. My biggest motivator is knowing that I am the example and that I am the thing that whether she likes it or not, she will look to the person that I was to make decisions for like the rest of her life, whether it's to do the opposite of what I did or to do what I did. I hope that I live my life in a way that I aspire to be someone that I hope she wants to be like. And that is truly my greatest motivator every day.
This has never happened before, but I'm gonna drop the mic again. So first time only here.
Wow. Wow. We're breaking records over here, Dan.
This is epic. This is epic. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That is incredible. And you know what? My last question, so we can relax and enjoy
Okay.
after an epic chat here. So
Okay.
probably the hardest. Probably.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. Those yes or no questions are really hard.
What do you think that could be the best title for this episode?
That's so Rheagan.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the first thing that came to mind. Like that's so Raven, but that's so Rheagan. Yeah, that's just the first thing that came to mind.
All right. We have a title.
I was
Who
on
knows?
That's So Raven. That's just one of the without the consulting Chat GPT. That's the first thing that came to mind.
That's pretty cool. I'll take it for sure. And who knows? I mean, that sounds like a franchise to me. Just saying.
Hey, I'm just saying it's catchy. It rolls off the tongue. It's recognizable.
That might be the next title for your next epic project. Who knows?
For my sequel to Stage Mama.
There you go. I love it. And at the end, what can I say? The fact that you're doing what makes you happy, I mean, that's epic. We all know that focusing on something that you want, that is outside the typical 9 to 5, usually tends to be a pain in the butt sometimes, and it can take you to lonely places or things like that. But you're showing out there, you're making it happen, and I think that is proof enough that dreams can come true. Because besides creating cool stuff, you're also showing us that, as I was saying, that dreams can come true, and that is super positive, super powerful, and it's people like you in this world who are giving us something positive to it. And at least to me, it's like fresh air from the negativity around us. The fact that we can rely on people like you, that is epic. And now I discover why you're beyond badass. Just saying. So
thank you so much, Dan, and you too, doing the work that you're doing by highlighting people and allowing people to shine their light. That is really special too, and that is something that is really badass and really cool that you're doing too.
Thank you. So I also want to thank those who stayed the whole episode. And I mean, by this point, come on, you should know why Rheagan is super badass. Let's make her viral. Hashtag Team Rheagan. And again, thank you for making this happen. Keep shining out there, keep rocking, keep kicking butt. And I'll definitely be seeing you in the next one. All right.